people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Welcome to the mother relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Fresh off her win over Claudia Ferenzi last month, Maisy-Rose is set to return to action at the end of this one in what is a very quick turnaround. One of Matchroom's next-gen shows, one of the smaller shows that Matchroom will be doing at the start of this calendar year. Maisy looks to be hitting the ground running to put distance between herself and that upset loss to Poland's own Jasmina Sopotnicka. She got herself back in the winner's bracket at the end of last year, and she looks to build on that at the start of this one against an opponent that has yet to be announced. Sporting a professional record of 7 wins with 1 loss, no draws, no recorded knockouts, Maisy is best described as an aggressive mid-range to inside fighter, fleet of foot. She's got some tools and she can move, but what really stands out about her is her offense, her aggressive approach. She is an aggressive fighter. That aggression worked against her in the Jasmina Sopotnicka fight. She's got to find better ways of channeling that. Campaigning in the women's flyweight division, flyweight, that's where Gabriela Fundora currently reigns as that division's undisputed champion. She'll be returning to action very soon, and so will Maisy. I don't get the sense that Maisy is on Gabby's radar, nor should she be. Maisy is tantamount to a prospect. She's not ready to fight for an alphabet title, and by the time she is, Gabby Fundora may have moved up, so these two aren't exactly on a collision course. They're not. But they do both have fights coming up. Gabby against Mariling Badillo, and Maisy-Rose against an opponent that has yet to be announced. And I suppose that Maisy's best bet to see herself crowned a world champion in this division is if Gabby Fundora isn't in it. So if she can bide her time long enough to see Gabby move up in weight, maybe Maisy, a year, 2 years from now, can pick up a vacant title. Once again, this is one of Matchroom's smaller shows. Ideal for a developing prospect like Maisy-Rose, without the added pressure of boxing on a big show and having to deliver a stellar performance. This allows the fighter to develop a bit more comfortably in a more intimate environment. No pressure. Don't yet know who she's going to be fighting, but the last girl she fought had a sum total of 117 losses, so almost anything would be a step up from that. We'll see who she ends up fighting. Men's super bantamweight news now. Inoue earlier today dropped and stopped Yi-Jun Kim in the 4th round to retain the Ring Magazine 122-pound championship. No surprises there. Yi-Jun Kim asked for it, and Naoya Inoue was more than happy to deliver. A classic 1-2 by the Ring and undisputed super bantamweight king floored South Korea's Kim to end their championship affair. Referee Mark Nelson immediately halted their contest at 2 minutes and 25 seconds into the 4th round of their Lemino pay-per-view / ESPN Plus main event Friday evening from a sold-out Ariake Arena in Tokyo, Japan. Yokohama's Inoue, 29-0 with 26 KOs, fought at a measured pace in the opening round as he sized up his late-scheduled opponent Kim, 21-3 with 2 draws, 13 knockouts, received his first title opportunity as an emergency replacement for the injured Sam Goodman on just 11 days' notice and did his best to catch Inoue off guard. I didn't have a lot of time to study my opponent, Inoue said, as translated by Mizuka Kiyoki. The plan included Kim fighting out of the southpaw stance, a habitual practice by the switch hitter, waited for the ring's number 2 pound-for-pound fighter to make a mistake or even take an unnecessary risk. It was never gonna happen, though it didn't prevent Kim from at least having his moment. Inoue, a 4-weight champion and the ring's 2023 Fighter of the Year, kicked into high gear in the 2nd round. He mixed in with a straight right hand between a series of left hooks. Kim smiled and nodded every time he tasted Inoue's power, though the developing mouse under his left eye indicated the damage he absorbed throughout the brief affair. Kim connected with combinations in an entertaining third round. Inoue took all the shots well and constantly adjusted every time his opponent enjoyed any modicum of success. Inoue continued to chip away at Kim's confidence in the fateful fourth round. Kim put on his best poker face as Inoue landed to the body, and again, when he connected with right hands and left hooks to the chin, Kim's response on almost every occasion was to either nod, wave an Inoue, or both. Inoue gladly accommodated that request in the final moments of the fight. A series of power shots drove Kim into a corner before Inoue closed the show with a jab and a straight. The latter sent Kim to the canvas for the bout's lone knockdown, at which point the fight was stopped.
No surprises.
The early win was the 10th straight knockout registered by Inoue, including all 5 fights at junior featherweight since he moved up from bantam in 2023. Inoue successfully defended the Ring Magazine 122-pound championship for the 3rd time and made his 4th overall defense of at least 2 junior featherweight belts. Inoue is now a perfect 21-0 in fights with a primary version of a sanctioning body title at stake. Friday also saw Inoue fight in his home country for the 8th straight time. The run dates back to 2021, after a pair of appearances in the United States, where he is now prepared to return later this spring.
It was another great performance by our champion here.
Said Hall of Fame promoter Bob Arum, whose top-ranked company co-promotes Inoue with Ohashi Promotions.
I observed the great country of Japan has given Major League Baseball Shohei Ohtani to the city of Los Angeles. For his next fight, the great country of Japan will give us the great Inoue to the city of Las Vegas for one fight this spring.
Inoue seconded that notion, confirming his plan for a 3-fight 2025 campaign as he previously shared with The Ring. 2025 will be the year for me to go to other countries to fight, Inoue reiterated. Next, I will be going to the city of Las Vegas to show you a great fight. I'm planning to fight in Las Vegas and then in Saudi later this year. Please support me in my journey around the world. He's supposed to be fighting Mexico's own Alan Picasso in his very next fight, which would satisfy his mandatory obligation via the WBC. Young Alan Picasso looks like a cross between William Zepeda and Canelo Alvarez. Sporting a professional record of 31 wins with no losses, 1 draw, 17 knockouts, he saw action 5 times last year. You heard that right. This guy fought 5 times. I think the most recognizable name on young Alan's resume would have to be the name of Crazy A, Avsat Havanesian. You know, the guy that fought Luis Neri on that Golden Boy promotion show? That's the best guy that he's fought so far. Really, a far cry from Naoya Inoue. 24 years old and about as active and ready as he's going to be for a challenge like this, I think that Alan Picasso can push Inoue a little harder at least, than Yi-Jun Kim. Some more stern tests. That is the name that they're putting out there for Inoue's trip back to America. Personally, I don't see the point in it. I don't see why he's coming here. He could just as easily sell out the Ariake Arena in Tokyo, Japan with this guy like he just did with Yi-Jun Kim. Whereas here in America, this is not a big fight, so why make the trip? Now, they've been nagging this guy to come to America, fight in America. He needs to fight here for at least 2 years now. So here he comes. Maybe this is in part some way to satisfy a contractual obligation to Top Rank. Maybe that's what it is. Bob's been talking about it long enough. So have his critics.
Yeah.
Urging him to fight here, but I wonder if all those guys you see online urging Inoue to come to America are gonna be at his fight. I doubt it.
But that's the plan, and if he makes it through it, onward to Saudi.
His 2025 is all mapped out. He won't be facing his countryman Junto Nakatani anytime this year, but he did address that fight, and he did address Junto. Right now, we have immediate goals that do not involve each other. Naoya Inoue found common ground with the one fighter whose name is most often mentioned as a future rival. The reigning ring and undisputed junior featherweight champion was never going to spend all of Fight Week discussing a mythical matchup with Junto Nakatani or any other opponent than the one in front of him. In that vein, Inoue appreciated the approach taken by his unbeaten countryman, who shut down any thought of an immediate head-on collision. The 5'8" southpaw, who's already a 3-division champion, is naturally expected to move further up in weight. However, his plan is to ease his way into the super bantamweight division. That will come only after he settles up his intended business at bantam, which he hopes will include at least one unification bout. From there, a fight or two at a new weight before he entertains what would be the biggest all-Japanese clash in the nation's history. I'm glad he said what he said. Inoue told the ring of Nakatani's own agenda. For me, it was never really a concern or a focus because we are still at different weight classes.
Junto's not in a hurry.
Yes, it's a fight that we can talk about further down the line. Right now, we both have immediate goals that don't involve each other. Inoue has won titles at 108, 115, 118, and 122. He moved up to the latter division in 2023 and fully unified all the belts there in just 2 fights. It remains a good fit for Inoue, who will attempt his 4th overall defense of at least 2 junior featherweight titles and 3rd as the ring and undisputed champion.
He did it. He knocked Yi-Jun Kim out.
Nakatani would like to unify in at least one division after failing to lure the other champions during his stay at flyweight and junior bantam. There is nothing to suggest he will leave the bantamweight division after February 24, assuming he defeats the unbeaten Quaylar. I know who I am going to fight this year, said Inoue. Nakatani has not even moved up yet, so there's no reason for me to mention his name right now. Professionalism.
Mutual respect and not a lot of brash trash talk to fill the air. Cool sound bites to get everybody talking in the calendar year. They know they're not about to fight, so they're not going to waste everybody's time.
So if Inoue isn't fighting Junto this calendar year, who is he going to fight? Well, there's Alan Picasso and then presumably Mudajan Akhmadaliev in Saudi. I think that will be Inoue's 3rd fight of this year, provided that he makes it past Alan.
Though fighting Alan Picasso here in the United States could come at the expense of Inoue's WBA title, which would presumably go to MJ, at which point he can go get it back towards the end of the year.
Though it will be very bad optics for Inoue up until he does.
Still good build-up.
I mean, they did need an angle to sell that fight because Mudajan Akhmadaliev is not exactly a fan favorite, so using this as a means to get attention to him,
It's good build-up.
until such a time as Inoue can square off with him and take back what is his. If he does end up dropping the WBA title, I anticipate he's gonna win it right back.
I'm massively against rehydration clauses. At the end of the day, we have weight divisions for a reason. I think rehydration clauses make things more dangerous than they necessarily need to be.
Don't disagree with you.
If you are making a fight at 160, you should not be disabling a fighter and saying, well, you can't rehydrate beyond this weight the day after. At the end of the day, we want them to rehydrate as much as they possibly can. If they can make the contracted weight of 160 on the day of the weigh-in, so be it. It's your choice. You are making the choice to go up in weight. Don't give me this that you're the smaller guy, 147 going up to 160. We need a little bit of something coming back the other way. Tough. You've made the decision to go to 160. Crack on. These are the rules at 160.
I don't get it. I mean, Adam Catcher, like, on what basis? Firstly, Chris Eubank rehydrates, in his own words, anywhere between 5 and 8 pound, right? So this is the IBF standard rehydration clause. I'll be honest. The first fight was at 157 with a 9 pound hydration. That was, I mean, but also don't forget, our job is to do the best deal for Conor Benn. This hydration will take place at 9 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. It's not difficult for Chris Eubank, but that's protecting your fighter as well, and that's our job. Why would I let Conor Benn is going to weigh in probably about 156, 157 pound. He's going to be on the day of the fight probably 160 or 162 pounds. These people are morons, honestly. Like absolute morons.
That was Eddie Hearn clapping back at Talk Sports' Adam Catterall, who was quite critical of the rehydration clause in association with Eubank versus Benn.
See what he said.
I saw Boxing Beats and Rhymes' video about it, and he raised a valid point. This is not a title fight. This is not for an alphabet title, so you can arrive at whatever weight you want between yous to accommodate whatever needs to be accommodated, because if you insist on fighting a naturally smaller fighter in Conor Benn, considerations need to be made. Moreover, this was not Chris Eubank Jr.'s only option. He had the option of fighting Hamza Shiraz, who he turned down, the option of fighting Erislandy Lara for an alphabet title, and I'm pretty sure that if he wanted to, he could have fought Janibek for his 2 alphabet titles, but this is what he chose, so don't cry over spilt milk now.
What are we supposed to feel sorry for him? That he's gonna make a fortune fighting a guy who's naturally smaller than he is.
Consider that the IBF uses a weight cap, just like this one, in most of their title fights. The only time they waive it is when there's more than one alphabet title on the line. But if Chris were fighting for the IBF title, just that title, he'd be subject to a weight cap, just like this one.
So don't make it seem like this is somehow outlandish or uncalled for.
It isn't. Chris Eubank Jr. is not a little boy. He's not being held at gunpoint or held to ransom. He's not being forced to fight Conor Benn. He's doing this willingly. This is what you signed up for.
And it's gonna pay out a lot of money. But compromises need to be made. If you insist on fighting a fighter who's naturally smaller than you are,
He doesn't have to. He can walk away. Erislandy Lara and his WBA title were on the table for weeks. Chris could have went in that direction. If he didn't, it's likely because you don't like your chances against that guy. The fight pays a lot less. Erislandy Lara has competed at a much higher level than Chris Eubank Jr. for a longer duration of time. So why roll the dice with him when you can fight a naturally smaller guy
more money.
in Conor Benn?
It's to feel sorry about. He made his decision.
I really didn't think we would get here. I thought that the ship had sailed for this fight. So many failed attempts and so much bad blood between them, as well as their egos. Chris's ego, Conor's ego.
I saw the undercard for the fight. It's really not much to look at. Liam Smith is going to make his next ring appearance. Chris Billum Smith is going to make his next ring appearance.
The rubber match between Anthony Yard and Lyndon Arthur. You can tell this is geared more towards a British audience than an American one. And I do think it's going to do numbers across the pond. The pay-per-view, though it should not be billed as such here in America. Here in America, this should be billed as a regular fight as part of a regular schedule.
Americans don't care that much about Chris or Conor to pay extra to see their fight.
Just make it a regular fight to beef up the schedule for the good people in the United States, your US subscribers.
Who wins?
I really don't know. Chris Eubank Jr. is naturally bigger than Conor Benn. I mean, he's got that. He's got size and experience at the weight, though at the same time, he's getting on in age. He's in his mid-30s, and he's subject to this rehydration cap that both he and his father are averse to. So you wonder that it won't weaken him.
Weaken him enough that there's a bit more sting in Conor Benn's punches. Conor was on the cusp of crossing over from prospect into contender status. He hasn't proven so much that he's a lock to win this fight, but you do want to consider that.
Chris Eubank Jr.'s age and the weight cap.
Would think that Chris Eubank Jr.'s career is officially over if he loses this one. Conor's younger. If he loses, he can bounce back, whereas Chris, more miles on the odometer and less time to bounce back.